Welcome to the Regular Joe's podcast. I'm Dave Pisani.
I'm Barry Kay.
I'm Todd Pleasant.
And I'm Tom Spina.
Hey!
Welcome
Special
to
guest star today.
Thanks for having me on.
Always a pleasure to have you on. So tell us, how have you been spending the past 9 weeks? No, you don't have to.
I've been surprisingly busy. I think, like a lot of folks here in New York, we've been shut down for about 9 weeks. We're right now tentatively scheduled to go back to the studio on Monday. And that assumes that the final metrics are hit tomorrow. And then, we're taking 2 or 3 days to prep and then heading back in. But what we've managed to do is about, depending on the week, about 3 to 5 of us have been working remotely. The rest of the crew were all on unemployment, waiting for this to lift so that we can get back. And just carrying the 2 businesses in this downtime has been a surprising amount of work. But we also got very aggressive about trying to do stuff that we normally don't do when we're in the studio, trying to do more fun stuff for social media, and trying to come up with we have a ton of new products that are in the works right now. And so we tried to get ahead on that. We got, some more of our digital sculpture done. We got some more of our product approvals through. We got a lot of stuff in the submission process that normally is the sort of thing that we end up working on, but never getting ahead on. And so we tried to use the time as best we can. We also did a ton of updates to the website. So anybody who goes to the tomspinadesigns.com site will see, a lot of website updates over the last few weeks. We've got a massive backlog of projects that we've worked on that are waiting to go onto the website. So we finally started to dig through some of that. And it's just, it's nice to think about this being nearly over, at least in terms of the lockdown, if not
we hope so.
Extended effects. But, we have...
we just got word today back at my job that some people that were partially furloughed, they actually gave them dates when they were going to go back to full time, which is good. So
very nice.
We're starting, same sentiment. We're starting to see signs of things lifting. So it's good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's been, it's been an interesting time. I'm lucky that, for both me and the crew, they're all creative types. They're all people that, no matter where they are, no matter what they have around them, they're going to just find stuff to do.
We've been talking about that recently, how if you're not a creative person, if you can't funnel your energies into other things, this has got to have been a much harder period of time.
Totally. I'm home and I'm like, this is great. I work 9 to 5 and I got plenty of projects I'm working on. Some people are like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. There's no sports on. Like,
right. I don't have that problem. No.
I'd be happy.
People without hobbies, I'm sure it's been a lot harder.
Yeah,
exactly. I keep on telling my wife, like, when do you build something? She's like, I don't want to build anything. What are you talking about? Build one of those little picnic tables for squirrels that we're seeing on the internet.
Yeah. Oh, so Tom, do you ever just go into your shop and just sit and look at the cool stuff? Because I think when I was in your shop, the one time I got there, I kept thinking I couldn't work in this place because I'd just be staring at stuff all day. It's just like,
that's funny. That's what I tell you about where you work, Todd.
Yeah, it's true too, for different reasons.
Yes. Harry, that's what I say about what you work. No,
Tom might not realize Todd works in an all-girls prep school, so.
I'm glad I picked Barry then.
Yeah.
That definitely is a thing where you kind of, you sort of have to walk through and just stop, and every once in a while kind of go like, wait, is that really here? Is that really the thing from that movie? And that's really in front of me? Is this
last time I was at your shop, I won't say what it was, but I met you there and we were going out after, and you were shutting the lights off, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's something right here that's unbelievable, and you haven't even let me look at it. You got to turn the lights back on.
That's the way I felt, and it was like, breathing the atmosphere in the same space as some of those things was amazing.
It's pretty cool. I think since the last time you were there too, we've expanded. We have almost double the square footage, which is actually something working very well in our favor for when we do go back. It means that we'll have plenty of room between people.
Yeah, I saw the new space. It's great.
So much. Thank you. There is so much happening right now at the studio. It's just, there's just a lot of stuff ahead of us. And really, it's with both companies. I feel so lucky. I think about all these people who have, restaurants or movie theaters or, live theater type theaters and other, industries that are now changed, certainly for the time being and possibly, for the long term. And, they're going back to a question mark, and we just don't have that. We're very, very lucky. We're going back with a lot to do, a lot to work on, plenty of hopefully pent up creative energy to put towards it. And I feel very lucky that we've come out of this, that, the whole crew's healthy, everybody's safe. I'm anxious to keep that same safe and healthy thing going through the reopen. And I hope we can do that. And, but yeah, I just feel very lucky that, people have continued to visit the sites on a real regular basis. People continue to place orders on stuff. People have been luckily very patient with us with the Regal Robot stuff, ordering stuff that we're offering that, on the website, we tell them like, hey, as soon as we're back, we'll make this and ship it, but it's just going to be a little while because, if we're not permitted in the place, there's only so much we can do.
Yeah.
No, that's great. Yeah. I think it'll be interesting to see as everyone goes back. I mean, I think that, we've been lucky that we're all working through this, but I don't see us going back to our offices anytime soon. And that's
same here.
Yeah. And
and if we could, there's so much of our stuff is just so hands-on. There's just not that opportunity.
Yeah.
The people who were able to work remotely were already working remotely for us.
Yeah.
And there's also, it's tough. There's only so much you can do remotely on a creative job. I feel, I think like you need that energy of, 2 or 3 people in a room, even if they're 6 feet apart, to be able to just really vibe off each other and bounce ideas around and get things happening. I think you lose an element of that when people are, in their house, maybe distracted, maybe, who knows, whether they've got life, wife, kids, dog, any number of things. That could
also just conveying ideas, when you're not, when you lose that direct, one-to-one interaction.
You can't sit and just literally sketch it on a piece of paper and just
sit there and just spitball together. I got to say, one of the things I'm coming out of this with is intense respect for people who do phone support. Because who've always been the bane of my existence, but that's been my job for the last, 10 weeks. And, it is so difficult, talking someone through the dark. And I imagine you have, a great idea that, like I said, you could convey really easily if you had a group of people standing around and, whatever. And but when you've got to sit down and
it's a
type
lot
it all
harder
out
with creative ventures too. I mean, I've found it fairly easy to transition in my job because half of what we did over video conferences with people in other towns, states, cities, countries anyway. Yep. So that transitioned really well for me. But I'm not doing, there's some creativity in my job, but it's not a creative job. It's not like where you need to be with other people, hands-on making things.
They just hold you back. That's how I feel. I don't need anybody. I just do what I do and leave me alone.
Just you and all.
But you've been like that well before any of this ever happened, Dave.
That's true. I'm like, this is fine. My wife's like, this is going to get to us. I'm like, yeah, I'll let you know. This is good.
Yeah. I keep saying I've been social distancing since I was 45. So it's just, really it's not new for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I honestly, other than the intense sort of, oh God, we have so much to do feeling.
Yeah.
I'm right there with Dave. Like, oh yeah, this is fine. I can do this. I definitely can self-motivate. I definitely can focus on the tasks at hand and bang through work and get stuff done. And it doesn't bother me to be around the house at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're also surrounded by some really cool things.
I was just going to say, also, having been in your house, okay, I wouldn't mind hanging out there for a while either.
As everybody's saying, with 8 million dolls and models and
exactly.
stuff
I was just
going to
say, I'm looking behind every one of you.
Yeah, but
it's funny because
I will say,
props and dolls.
I work here.
We all have a lot of action figures. Tom's action figures are 1/1 scale,
right?
And they're very cool.
Thank you.
I sit over there when I do my work, and people are like, "Oh my God, I can't sit in the same room again." I'm like, "What do you mean?" And then you have Zooms, and people are literally in a blank wall behind them with a table. I'm like, I literally cannot find a wall in this room that I could do a Zoom that's not embarrassing. I do the astronauts.
I had to clear off a shelf. I had to clear off a shelf so I could have a shelf behind me that was mildly geeky.
I gave up.
Almost everybody.
I gave up. I mean, I got a Millennium Falcon and guitar amps, and there's no way to angle anything here to not be on camera with people.
I'm like, how are you in a room with a completely blank wall behind you?
Yeah.
I can't even find places to hang stuff.
But you know what, Dave? That's probably a lot of what those people's houses look like in general. They're just not creative people. But anyway,
let's go some random. I'm going to go first. Screw all you.
Okay.
I never go first.
Wow.
I'll probably have mine, so go for it.
Oh, you think? Well, I should have this one.
You should.
So tomorrow, NASA and SpaceX are launching the first humans from the United States on a rocket for the first time in about 10 years. Very exciting.
Yes, exactly. Todd. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Yep. I watched the special last night on the Science Channel. Then they went through all the stuff. I mean, they had some mishaps. I mean, the Falcon 9 rocket by SpaceX sounds like a solid rocket. It's exploded a couple times, but these guys, I give them a lot of credit. The crew capsule had an issue a year ago, but they've worked out all the kinks. I mean, we're in completely new territory. So wish them all the best. I'll be watching. I think they launch at 4:00. A lot of people are doing specials starting at 2. It doesn't matter because you're hearing this on Friday, but in the past, I think they get to the space station on Thursday. So anyway, but I give these guys a lot of credit.
So by the time you're hearing this, they will be on the space station, safe and sound.
Safe and sound.
Yeah.
We've needed this. This is NASA and this country, and we've needed some kind of commercial space operation. It's a shame that the shuttle program ended 10 years ago, and we haven't had anything to replace it.
And then we've been reliant on 1990s Russian technology.
Yeah, we went from using our 1980s technology to using the Russians' 1990s technology.
Yeah.
But it's like that scene in Armageddon where the Russian guy's like banging on stuff on the space station just to get everything to work.
Yep.
Have you guys seen like the capsule and the spacesuits and stuff?
Yeah.
I've seen the pictures. Yeah.
It looks like something from, totally looks like something from a movie. I'm like, we're in a spacesuit that looks like if they were in as good shape as Tom Cruise, it looks like the suit he wore in Oblivion.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
These guys are older and a little heavy, which I like seeing. I thought astronauts were all fit and trim, but these guys are.
Hey, doesn't matter when you're weightless.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, there's still a chance for me.
Yep.
Anyway,
Dave, don't rule it out.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, you might have to leave that room, but I don't know.
Maybe you could get on the same mission as your boyfriend Tom Cruise.
Maybe.
Right. Yeah.
I'll do that. So that's what I have. So hopefully they work it all out. I don't want to get a call from Todd. Todd called me one day when we had a tragedy. I remember sitting at this desk in another house when you called me. So good luck to those guys. Anyway, Barry, what do you got?
I'll go. So on a completely separate and totally different thread, Frank Marshall told Collider this week that Indiana Jones 5 is still on schedule for a 2022 release. He confirmed that Mangold is going to be directing.
Oh.
And here's what he said. He said he's an ideal choice for the takeover from Spielberg. His love for the franchise. He's a wonderful filmmaker. I think he also has a relationship with Harrison. It was all the right pieces coming together at the right time. And then he also said that Spielberg is staying on as a producer, so we've got the best of everything.
So there's a couple interviews with Mangold where he's asked direct questions about Indy 5, and he talks how excited he is to do it, and then he ends up talking about Logan, which is really, really interesting.
Here's the most
I
interesting
wonder
thing
whether
of this
there's like an
Collider
embargo
article.
thing there or something, because he starts talking about themes and then immediately goes to talking about Logan, and this is 2 separate interviews I've read.
But the interesting thing about it, this Collider article, was that they also asked him how the script writing process was going, and he said, and this was an interview from this week or last week, he said it just started.
Yeah,
so they must have scrapped whatever script they had, and Mangold is coming in and rewriting and bringing it in a different creative direction.
He's written most of this. Not most. He's definitely written some of his stuff. Couple.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's writing it or if he's brought in a team, but
have they previously said that this was the last time we would see Indiana Jones?
But there's been like 3 times leading up to this where Harrison has said he's seen the script and it's great. So that's it. They just keep going.
That guy gets in a plane one more time. That's the end of Indiana Jones. So I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be. I mean, somebody was speculating online that he could literally like walk past a marquee and you could see American graffiti on like a movie marquee in this movie because it's so much further in the future, depending on how old they make him.
Yeah. Oh God, yes. Yeah.
I really. Well,
again, Indiana Jones is born in the year 1900, so
right.
We see. So
what the hell are they going to?
The article I read said 1890 something, but I trust you.
Well, it could be 1899, but I think he was supposed to be. I think he was supposed to be a century baby. So
yeah. I don't know what they're going to do. The 70s is not a good time to do anything.
Oh God. It'll be like, Dracula AD 2000, or AD 1973 rather. The one of the last Hammer Dracula movies.
Yes, exactly.
Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee in the 70s.
Where Dracula has bell bottoms.
They did go back in X-Men and that worked pretty well, but I don't know if it works for Indiana.
It can, but okay, so here's my question. Does he have the eye patch?
He's not that old, I don't think, yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, I've said it a million times. This is a movie I just never needed them to make, but I don't know. Fingers crossed.
You like the last one.
If it starts with him
like
waking
the last
up,
one more than you, but that doesn't mean
Yeah, exactly.
want it to be better than that.
If it starts waking up with him, be like, whoa, that was like the weirdest dream ever. And it was like I had a son and I hooked up with Marion again. Ooh, Jesus. Yeah.
He rolls over and he goes, "Wow, honey, can you believe that?" And Willie Scott says,
"That's right."
No,
Kate,
are you okay?
Capshaw sitting there.
That would be great if they put Kate Capshaw on it like that.
And
That'd
she's
be
like,
funny.
"Again with the Marion."
Right.
How many more times do I have to hear that bitch's name?
That's right. Yes, totally. It's not the Newhart ending. It's the Newhart opening. Okay. It's like, it's a new thing.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we'll see. Who knows?
Cool.
He's done good stuff. I mean, you know, both his Wolverine movies were good.
I just don't know what he's going to have to work with. I mean, God bless him. I love Harrison Ford, but he is getting up there.
It's got to be some sort of an ensemble, and it's got to be better than last time. So
could they pull something out of their hat like it is him reminiscing and someone else plays him young?
I think that's too much of a.
He would not do that as his swan song in this character. He maybe would bookend it as for a future movie, but this is meant to be the redemption of the franchise. I don't see it.
Maybe he'll show up and Kylo Ren's just talking to him and he's imagining it, and then he'll just go on to something else.
It's all made of stock footage, and they've just played with the aging on it, and so
they de-age him. Wow, that could be good.
We know they can do that.
They could.
He wouldn't stand for it though.
Totally could.
One of the things I drives me nuts. Speaking of de-aging, I keep seeing people online who will take, footage from a movie that was de-aged for a movie. And then they're like, look, I deep faked this and it's better than the de-aging from the studio. And it's like, no, you just face swapped the already de-aged thing. This is like waking up on third base and thinking you hit a triple. This is, like these guys already did all the negative removal stuff that your thing can't even do. They did all the other stuff. They, shot it right, did all this stuff, planned everything ahead. And you just come in and like, look what I did with this free program. So it's Hollywood sucks. And that just drives me bananas when I see that. It's just, and it's everywhere. Anytime there's a movie with de-aging, you're just minutes away from someone posting, I fixed it,
Yeah. I got to say, some of those deep fakes things have been really incredible. I sent you the Burt Reynolds as James Bond one, which was just, if you haven't seen this, Tom, it's crazy. You don't realize how much, in terms of shape of the face, young Burt Reynolds and young Sean Connery have a very similar jawline. Yeah. And it's a great 1-for-1 swap, but creepy.
And that's the thing you got to have. Like, you've got to have the face the right shape. You've got to have, that the foundation, because if you otherwise, it's like putting prosthetics on someone that's their face is the wrong shape. It's not going to do anything.
Yeah.
So. Tom, do you have a random topic?
Me?
Yeah.
I didn't know I needed to bring
Barry, you're supposed to have a random topic.
It's fine. I'll throw another one out there. So in the wake of the Justice League announcement, people have been hitting Josh Trank up on Twitter about a director's cut or his cut of Fantastic Four, and the internet rejoiced when he said he wasn't interested in doing that.
No one needs anyone's cut of Fantastic Four.
I don't know whether it's like one interview that's been cut and recut, but he has been going on endlessly about that. And I guess when a single movie,
no Tranks, which I thought was actually pretty funny.
I think when a single movie effectively ends your career, maybe that's the case. But like he's, there's articles that are saying, oh, he takes complete responsibility, except he blames everybody else. And it's just, it's terrible all the way around.
Yeah, nobody bought a billboard in Times Square to beg for a new cut of that one.
That's not going to happen. So my thing is about a movie that I've actually never seen. Okay, that I conscientiously object to. I read an article last week with the directors of John Wick, where they talked about the difficulty they had in killing the dog. And that
spoiler alert,
they had huge, which is why I won't see the film. Because I do not condone beagle violence. Okay.
You haven't seen,
I have
John
never
Wick?
seen,
we've had, okay. I'm going to tell you, I think John Wick is great.
I know you're saying
that part is
I know
horrible.
That's why I'm talking about
That's
it.
why I can't watch I Am Legend.
I know the dog
dies.
dies.
The German Shepherd.
It's like I'm not.
Spoiler alert.
So
a 20-year-old movie.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So, but it was really interesting to read because he said in a film that's just totally filled with violence, the producers pushed back relentlessly about killing a dog.
Yeah, that's right.
And that they were totally convinced that this was going to make this was going to kill the movie, and that they did everything they could to not let them kill the dog in the film. And
what's amazing is that sequence gives that movie all the emotional impact it needs to explain his killing spree.
And it's for two sequels as well.
But anyway,
and they're making a fourth.
Yep.
I think it's great, except for that. And I believe in spoilers. Sorry, Tom. He kills 75 people in the first movie, and nobody cares about any single. They're all bad guys.
Exactly. But to this day, killing that dog is controversial.
I don't blame him. I'm with you. I don't condone that at all.
Yep.
Speaking of movies that you refuse to see or whatever, I won't even go into it. Let me ask you a question, Tom. This is your random.
Okay.
And I hope you haven't been set up because someone promised you wouldn't. Have you seen the movie Willow, and what do you think of it?
So I saw it. I mean, yeah, I've seen it a whole bunch of times. I haven't seen it probably in 30 years. I watched it a lot in high school. and I enjoyed it, but never felt it quite, was what it could have been. Okay. And maybe it's also just because of what we were comparing it to back then. There's so many, for lack of a better word, titans, movie-wise, that are in that era, and how fortunate that they all came out when I was the most impressionable. All the best movies. It's amazing. But no, so, it never, to me, it was always like a maybe a solid 5 or 6 out of 10. Like, it never really was something where I was totally nuts about it.
All right. Rewatch and let us know. We had a whole episode where we talked about, what's his face? Val Kilmer.
Val Kilmer movies.
We all chose a movie that the others hadn't seen. And it got
at least one of us hadn't seen. I chose Top Secret.
And I chose Tombstone.
And I chose Willow, which I still defend.
Tombstone, by the way, is the low-hanging fruit of Val Kilmer films. Okay, I mean, it's just
it started because we're talking about Val Kilmer, and I'm like, Val Kilmer's been in 2 movies, Top Gun and Tombstone. That's all you need to know.
I don't know. Right. I put Top Secret above Top Gun, but that's just
Thank you,
me.
Tom.
I didn't love that either.
I would. You're in my will.
What was crazy was we actually had 5 people on that week, and we normally just the 3 of us. We had 5 people on. 2 of them said that Willow, after having watched it, was the worst film they'd ever seen in the history of watching films. And I was like, I love this movie. People. How can you even think that? But,
I think it's one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life.
I don't know that I put it that far, but it definitely feels, to me, it feels like one of the Ewok movies. And I don't,
those are classics. Don't say that. How dare you?
Caravan of Courage. How dare you?
Yeah.
No, but these guys will tell you that pretty much anything with a Lucasfilm logo on it is, I defend. So,
well, the whole funny thing is, Todd was like, okay, Barry's a huge George Lucas Lucasfilm fan. He saw this when he was 8 or 9 and he loved it. But the reality is he saw it when he was 20, 21.
I was just going to say he was older than 8 or 9.
I was like, okay, in my mind, it's like I pictured young Barry seeing this film and not 8 or 9. I was thinking about like 10 or 12 or something. And it's like, okay, this is why he has a sentimental attachment to this film. And I didn't do the math, okay?
No.
Well, yeah, he was 21. So
what year did Willow come out? Was that 86, 87?
It was 88.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Anyway, guess what? You know who doesn't suck a lot? Fanboy Collectibles. They're awesome.
That is a segue and a half right there.
Yeah. Check those guys out. And I know we texted a little bit about this, but Hot Toys Wonder Woman 1984 Golden Armor. That is one hell of a freaking
I sent you guys a picture because it looks real. I mean,
the head sculpt is real.
They put rooted hair on it too, so it looks.
If they make
like
that in
real
1/1 scale, I'm in. But
I ordered it.
Check that out.
Awesome. It's a stunner.
Yeah,
it's really it's one of these things where you start to look at it just from a production standpoint, and you just go like, how are you, How do you get that done across the line? That's amazing.
The wings, that you can have them you can have them fully stretched out, but also constricted like that. And I mean, God, I almost feel like you need 2 of these to display it properly. It's like
one that you're going to wear out.
That's what they're hoping for.
Anyway, we're in a commercial, so let's not go. Let's not
be inappropriate.
Let's not be inappropriate. What else? There's Cobra Kai Pops. Everyone needs Cobra Kai Pops. Those are awesome. There's Kotobuki's and there's sideshows and there's everything. Check them out, fanboycollectibles.com. They're delivering. You need something. We'll let you know when the store opens, but tell them the Regular Joe sent you. They got everything you need. Okay. We're going to talk about Disney Plus has 2 series. We're going to talk about both of them. Well, they have a lot more series, but 2 we're going to talk. One is Prop Culture. Barry, why don't you explain this? Because I think you're the one who's.
Yeah, I mean, I will, and then Tom, jump in because I know you're well versed in this too. But it's a show that's hosted by a guy named Dan Lanigan, who is a well-known prop collector in his own right, and which is, I'm sure, why Disney tapped him to host the show. But each week, or not each week, I'm thinking of the other show that's weekly. This one, they dropped the whole thing in one shot, which is great. Each episode focuses on a different sort of classic Disney movie, and Dan goes, from location to location trying to track down the props from that movie. Some of them are in private collections, some of them are in the Disney archives, and some of them are, in some cases they interviewed the people that helped make the movies. And, for people that are into the stuff we're into, it's like a goldmine of amazing things. And just to see, inside the Disney archives and to see inside some of these people's collections and behind the scenes stuff they spend quite a bit of time talking about how the movies were made. And I just found it like amazing. And even if some of the movies aren't movies I'm all that interested in, I could watch that about just about any movie.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because it's
cool
just so interesting.
That. And he does sort of reunite people, actors and stuff, or producers
the thing with
some
this
props.
Is this cool. This feels like one of those slapped together low budget reality shows, but not. It's like they have the same kind of arc. It's like, this is a big surprise. This is whatever like this, but they have the actual actors and they actually have the stuff.
You're thinking of the show called
of
Collector's Call.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Exactly. But it's all, but they've got all the stuff and they've got all the access and they've got this is the realization of all those types of shows that are just like,
well, done with the budget, and done with access.
It's done with the budget
and done with
huge
heart,
access. Oh yeah,
I think is the real thing, because there's all these other shows and they kind of, to me, it's the first real show that I'm seeing in the prop collecting hobby that, and this kills us. I know tons of collectors who collect real original movie props. I collect that stuff. Some of my best friends collect that stuff. We are all deeply committed to this material. We're all in love with movies and props and things like that. And it drives every one of them nuts that every show that keeps, every time there's a new show about props that comes out or whatever, all it talks about is the value. All it talks about is price.
That's
how much did this sell at auction?
It's
how
all
much
hype.
did this go for? We're going to have an expert come in and appraise this, and it's
exactly. Yeah, there's some clowns.
There's
none of that
all
on
this
this
kind
show.
of stuff.
There's no value, which is nice.
And this thing is all about just the glory of the stuff, and that it still exists, and this is the state, and the reverence that they show for the things. The white gloves and the I really want to touch it, but I know I can't. And
and how some of it was they start the first episode is Mary Poppins, and I kind of rolled my eyes, going, "Well, okay, fine, I'll watch it." I'm not a
problem with Mary Poppins.
No, I don't have a problem with it, but it's not a movie I think of when I think of
Poppins.
Prop collecting. But the fact that snow globe and the story behind that snow globe and how they recovered it, it's just how are some of these things? They were that close to being lost to the ages, and it's just amazing how some of that stuff survives.
And that they then have, Sherman, the only one who could play that, who was ever allowed to play that piano, come into Walt's office. I mean, spoilers, but there's so many great moments and it's funny because, I kind of said the same thing. I'm like, Mary Poppins, it's an odd lead in, but then watching the episode, you just get such a sense of what they're doing with this show and, the types of connections they're trying to make. And that one really, it had a lot of heart. And it was.
Did everybody cringe when that woman pulled the piece of the broom off?
Yeah,
I definitely flinched when that happened. I was like, "Oh,
yeah."
I felt like the one that got me was the Tron one because there are so few artifacts from Tron.
Yeah,
and they instead of just like beating it to death, they explained all the things. Showed all the pieces how it came together. They did the matte painting thing. It was just, and then to circle back to the neon sign, the restoration of the neon sign, it was terrific. And it wasn't, it was just, and it was, they didn't try to wring more drama out of it. They didn't it was just done really well.
Full disclosure, I've known Dan for, probably at least, probably 15 years now. I consider him a good friend. I consider, he's one of my prop buddies. He has definitely been a great client for us. There's, a couple of really nice peeks at parts of his collection when they start the show. He looks like he's literally like exploring a cave somewhere at the open of the show. And, you know, that's a space that we got to be a part of. And there's a lot of stuff in that opening shot that we got to work on. And,
fantastic.
Great.
You know, just absolutely thrilled that, you know, in a way, it's like his coming out party. You know, it's like, Dan, you're starting to share with the world, and it's so nice because that's really the whole point. That's really the whole reason anybody collects this stuff. It's not just to have it. You know, that part of it's nice, but it's enjoying it with other people, and I feel like that's the thing this show does so well. Is it gets across that feeling, and it gets the you know, when you see these shows where they focus on the price, you cringe. You go like, that's so far from anyone's mind when they're looking at this stuff. If you're really a collector, if you're really someone that's
the awesome thing is that it exists, and that even though this thing was ephemeral in its creation, but it persists today and it exists, and it's like they made a great point when they were talking to the prop store guy about the highlight, you know, scoop.
Yeah.
And he was saying how this will go into someone's collection and, you know, very likely not be seen again. It's great that you took the time to share this with us. And that is like the ethos that I think has to come out of this, is that, you know, it's not just about acquisition. It's also about preservation, and also the fact that, like I said, this is known, and it is the thing.
But that always is got to be one of the most gratifying things about what you do, because a lot of these things, they do get sold through auctions or through private hands or whatever. A lot of it makes its way through your hands to be either, you know, restored or, you know, put on a certain type of display. So you actually are kind of like a way station for a lot of this stuff as it's changing hands, I would imagine. I appreciate
you didn't say grubby little when you said hands.
You know.
I was like, so you're a grubby little hands. But yeah, no, it's absolutely a great thing. And it's nice to know so many of these collectors, both as friends, and then, you know, there's a whole host of other ones that are just clients. And it's just nice to kind of have this feeling like, you know, knowing where stuff is, and just when people are when you see something in an auction, there's nothing worse than the feeling of like seeing something sell in an auction that you've always wanted to look at, you've always wanted to see up close. And then, you know, so you start asking around like, oh, who got it? Who got it? And then you find out no one in your circle got it. And you're like, what? It didn't go to someone in the family? I'm not going to go visit it? Like, I want to see it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what this does, what, you know, you do with your website, that you show clients who will allow you to do it, get to show those props. And even the prop store, I know you're friends with those guys. But, you know, they show up at all the conventions. They show stuff before it's going on auction. It's great to – I mean, 99%
for people that don't get to buy most of that stuff
are never going to buy that stuff, but it's great to see it. So,
honestly, those catalogs to me are like the adult equivalent of the Sears wish book.
Yeah.
You know, like –
totally.
Except you're not just looking at 20 pages towards the back where the male action section was.
The toys are,
Yeah. Like, I just
it's
sit
prop
here.
porn. Let's face it.
It totally is. And their photography department is outstanding at Prop Store.
It is.
And absolutely love what those guys do. And I think you know, it's one of the things that I actually said when the lockdown started, and I was like, you know, people are going to be stuck home and they're going to have a lot of spare time. And, you know, maybe not everybody gets bored, but apparently some people get bored. I don't know. It's a new thing or something. I never heard of it, but all right. And so for those people that got bored, I'm like, you know, we should remind folks, like, we have tens of thousands of images of props on our site, tomspinadesigns.com. I mean, in case anybody needed to know the site address, but, there's thousands of prop images on there, and there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of projects, and you can just, like, you know what, if you like movies, go there, search your favorite movie. Like, there's almost bound to be, especially if it's one of our type of movies, there's probably something there. Search your favorite actor, search your favorite director, or, you know, whatever. If you have a favorite effects guy, we mentioned those guys probably more than actors, or just explore. Like, it's the sort of thing where I'm like, if it wasn't my site, I would go there and hang out and
right.
You know, we get emails from people who are like, yeah, I came to your site to look at this thing. And then 45 minutes later, I realized, oh, right. I meant to email them about this thing I came here for, because they just spent, 40 minutes navigating from project to project to project, just lost on the site for a while. And it's cool. It's nice to be able to share what we can. I wish we could share more of what we do. There's so much that we don't get to share that is its own little bit of a frustration, but that's, NDA life, as they call it in the business.
Hopefully shows like this will encourage people to show stuff more. And I'm sure you must know plenty of people who a prop gets bought in an auction and disappears to everyone else in the world and never to be seen again.
Well, one of the people who was encouraged to share, not just by the show, but actually on the show, is Rob DiNicola. And he's creative director at Regal with me, and also works with us on the Tom Spina design stuff, because he's awesome, and the two of us work great together and come up with cool stuff. But he's a collector I've known since the late 90s through the RPF, and through Brandon from Prop Store and Art Andrews and all of those guys. And his collection shifted over the years, and it's neat to watch this sort of thing. And this is something I love seeing this in collectors, where they, the collection takes on a life of its own at some point. And with toys, you have the ability to fire wider and to cast a wider net. When it gets to props, and especially as the prop market has changed over the years, and the prices have become crazier and crazier, you're really forced to find a niche if you're gonna really, put something cohesive together. And, Rob had a love for Narnia, and
he's on that episode, that's episode 6, where they talk about the Narnia movies and those props.
Yeah. And he basically, focused his collection on Narnia stuff almost entirely. He's got a few.
That's
other
what I was going to ask you. So is that movie that meant something to him, or
yes.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, and beyond that, it was the book meant something to him. The movies came out, and he enjoyed that. And then just the quality of the stuff that was done for those movies by, Weta and by K&B Effects really is the stuff that got him initially. And then the costume departments and all of that stuff, you look, and it's, whether it's your type of movie or not, there's so much art to appreciate in those movies. And he put together a really amazing collection, and it was done through every avenue that a good prop collector takes. It was chasing down leads and hunting with crew members and talking to everybody he could, and also buying stuff from auctions and, looking for stuff, wherever you could online. And, he managed to really cultivate a great collection of stuff. Amazing. And, beautifully display it. And it's so funny. He had moved prior to this show, and in his previous house, he had a great prop room. And in this house, he was preparing to set up a new prop room, and then found out from Dan that he was going to be on the show, and had 2 weeks to set that room up.
Oh man.
So that room you see was blank 2 weeks before that. And he and his wife did all the theming, all the distressing, all like the panels, everything in 2 weeks.
Tom, is that room actually upstairs? Or did they just do okay. Cause I was wondering whether they did the going up the stairs shot to just tie into the film.
Yeah. No, it is in that case. It is pretty funny.
They said in the show that they were going to Long Island, so he's a local guy?
Yes.
For you and I?
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. Yeah, that's
cool. Those are movies that I've seen, I guess, but I don't really, they didn't stick with me the way some of the other movies did, but seeing that stuff.
You like Willow, but you don't like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe?
Right.
It's not Lucasfilm.
If it had Lion, the Willow, and the Wardrobe better,
of course.
Lion, the Witch, and the Willow.
I was looking for Mad Mardigan's costume. I didn't see it in there anywhere.
Yeah.
But it's been thrown away. No one,
the quality of that
collecting
stuff.
that.
I mean, they did focus quite a bit on the quality of the wardrobe, and when they were showing all of it, I was like, "Holy crap!"
That was
like
super high-end stuff. All those swords and all that.
How cool that Dan was able to, and it's so funny because the way it was worded, what Rob was saying before the episode came out, he was like, Dan offered me something in the middle of the episode. You're going to see it. And it's like, my face looks weird in the episode because I didn't know how to react because I wasn't sure if he was saying what I thought he was saying or not. Like,
I wondered whether it was he had already had that conversation.
No.
Was now supposed to be simulating surprise or something. Because he generally looks like almost like conflicted. Like,
you want to take my what?
Is this really what this guy's offering me?
Well, and it's the fact, because people don't offer you screen used wardrobe that is, one character that you needed out of the 4 or
but
whatever.
People also don't usually ask to take your stuff away somewhere on faith.
But it was like, and yes, there was something in the way it was worded. It was a little bit like, and then maybe this could stay with you for a while or something like that, where it was like, is he, like, I'm even going, like, is he saying he's given that to him? Because that's freaking amazing. But it was definitely, you could see it on Rob's face. He was like,
it was an odd moment.
I'm not, okay, I guess,
But again, this is the perfect example of, like I said, doing a show like this with, I don't want to say an unlimited budget, but they flew those actors over.
Yeah.
Okay. To reunite them with their costumes and have a chat with this guy. I mean, that's not typical for this type of show.
No, and they did that on a number of episodes. I mean, but
what I'm saying is with it was just, and that alone makes this thing really, really, I almost feel like this show is, I don't say it's mismarketed, but each episode has a separate demographic around it.
Almost.
There is the person who is hardcore into that movie that has to see this episode one way or another. Okay.
Right.
And then there's somebody that would watch the whole series.
I think you're right. There's definitely an audience for all of it, regardless of what the movie is. People are going to be interested because they like props. And then there's the Narnia fans or the Roger Rabbit fans.
But I think it's uniquely placed in Disney for that reason, because that's where everyone who loves that stuff is going to go anyways.
Yeah.
And just if they find their way to that thing.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see if people can find their way to it like that, because it's tough to market a show like that. Market 8 individual episodes to 8 individual markets. That's got to be tough. But I think it's a good
content to the original. I would link these episodes to the original content in the.
Oh yeah, in Disney.
Because
if you go to watch Tron,
I'm sure there's Tron people or there's Narnia people who would never go looking at that show. Who would really be thrilled to see that.
Yeah.
I also think Disney showed a lot of restraint not making one of the 8 episodes about Star Wars. I mean, if they get a season 2, maybe they'll go there.
Separate.
But I was actually
you could do a whole season on Star Wars.
Impressed that they didn't go there, given how much other Star Wars material is.
It's nice that they didn't.
It kind of is. I was thinking the same thing, where that's the easy one in some ways, but I found the.
I had never connected the dots in my head. I mean, I'm so in tune to the idea of the Lucasfilm archive. I never even thought about Disney having this treasure trove of stuff that goes all the way back.
Oh my God!
The one that really got me personally was the Tron one, because I liked Tron. I don't love Tron, but getting to see the background stuff on how they made it and the film, the separation and all that, and how they made all the glowy things and stuff, and the fact that they just never used this process again. They went through this
because it was too complicated
effort to develop this thing, and because it made 1/10 of what Star Wars made, it was like, okay.
I have a question for you, Tom, that if you don't feel comfortable answering, I totally understand. But in the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids episode, they completely restored. Restored is almost the wrong word. Like they took that shrink ray and basically just rebuilt it back to what it looked like in the first movie. Did they take that too far as a restoration? And do you think?
I think it's one of these things where my wife and I watched, and she kind of had the same questions. Like, wait, should they do that? And ultimately, we have encountered that very thing. We have had people who had a prop from a certain movie that had been used in multiple movies, and so it's modified along the way. and they say, we just did, or at least recently put on the site, Shredder's helmet from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2.
Yep.
Well, that was also Shredder's helmet from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1, but they modified it for part 2. Now, this guy got it, and it was already stripped down from part 2 style, but still had, all the markings and evidence of the part 2 style. And, when he wanted to restore it, he wanted to restore it to the part 1 look. And, it's his piece. And you kind of go, I don't know that there's a wrong choice there necessarily. Especially in a case like that where it had already been stripped back a bit.
Yeah.
If something came to us and it's in perfect part 4 condition and someone wants to take it back to part 1 because that's where it debuted, that's a hard ask. That's a tough thing to jump on, because I'd feel like in some way, you're taking away a screen match to add replica components in to better match it to what it was. Now, and granted, the restoration they did was great, and they found a lot of the proper vintage parts and all of that stuff, and that's outstanding. And it was cool to see. But
yeah, and I don't want to put you on the spot. To me, as a viewer, I felt like, wait a minute, they've got to so heavily modify this thing to get it back to what it looked like in the first movie.
Yeah,
it felt like maybe that was, and I get why in the archive they would want it to look like the iconic.
Oh, it was the archives one.
The archives had it.
Yeah,
that's a little weird. I'm surprised.
Yeah, I was surprised they did it. I'm not.
Did they do it for the show?
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, it was on the show, I don't know.
But it was like the Flynn sign was broken and they fixed it in theory for the show.
Yes.
But that wasn't taking the Flynn sign from the first movie, and they didn't reuse it, I don't believe, in the second movie and modify it heavily in the third movie.
It's a strange, it's one of the things I like about prop collecting is you can have those kinds of conversations.
Yeah.
There is so much more depth to it than, but I mean, how much did it cost at auction?
Right.
Like Luke.
It's almost like the thing with, and again, you get down to what is the genuine prop at that point. It's like the thing where there are more Cobras in the Shelby Cobra registry now than were ever produced. Because you can register the engine or you can register the chassis.
Oh, geez.
Okay. And despite the fact that numerous ones have been wrecked over the years, they've separated the bodies and the engines and
rebuilt
and redone them. So, after a while it gets to, I'd almost feel like you keep it in modified form and recreate the original if you want an example.
That's what I was going to say. Look at the Luke's Empire Saber. That was Obi-Wan's, a
Jedi, but
Jedi. I meant,
And that's there's a great example of that. So Luke's Return of the Jedi Saber, what's known as, I believe, the V2, but turns out to really be the one that was used the most in the movie and screen matches everywhere. And that's a piece that Brandon shared on Mark Hamill's collecting show.
Yeah.
That was Obi-Wan's A New Hope fighting saber. It had the spinning blade mechanism and all of that. The really funny thing is they didn't do all that much to it. So stripping that back to Obi-Wan style would not be as drastic a change. In fact, it's because they did so little to it that you can really match that thing up as Obi's.
They really got both.
Saber.
I mean, that's
But it's a perfect example of that. Do you leave it? Pardon me. Do you leave it in the perfectly matchable Luke Jedi style, or do you take it back to the first movie style? In this case, they left it, and I think that's definitely the right call. I think, it depends how drastic that change is, and ultimately, everybody is going to have their own preference. People have their own preference even just about restoration, let alone changing the style of the piece. Some people think, if the piece is broken, that's part of its history, leave it broken. Some people think, I want this to look as good as possible, fix it and repaint the whole thing and make it like it's brand new. And then some people think, fix it, but do it invisibly and do as little as possible so that it's as original as possible, but still displays well.
I was interested in all that Night Before Christmas stuff. With the Santa Jack, they were talking about how the hats deteriorate and they have to be replaced. And, I guess, and there's a lot of that stuff out there. Yeah, I'm sure you have. So that would be interesting for people that collect that stuff.
Well, that seems like you got to do that just to keep it in one piece every couple of years, which is interesting.
Yeah, and it's the sort of thing that if you don't on those pieces replace the stuff that's made out of that urethane that melts, or do it in such a way where you're at least putting some like wax paper or whatever under those pieces, there is a real chance that they're going to stain the clothing, they're going to stick to the clothing, and they're going to cause bigger problems down the line. It's like filling a tooth, there are certain materials that degrade so aggressively that they can take the rest of the piece down with it in various ways. And what you need to do is sometimes, you need to cut that out and fill it and replace it so that you still have a visually complete piece, but you don't have something that's risking the costume in the process or whatever.
Well, people that listen to this show, that they're going to like this show. I mean, if you like what we talk about on a weekly basis, you're going to like this show. If you haven't watched it, go watch it.
And this is just as a favor to Dan, I would say go watch it just because I think you'll enjoy it. And then if you do enjoy it, as a favor to all of us and my friend Dan, post about it, share it on your social networks, tell your friends about it. And, if you really like, find a way to send Disney Plus a message and tell them you like it. You'd love to see more because I know they have a lot more, of other ideas for new shows and new episodes. And I, for one, would love to see them.
Well, and it comes, you know the guy personally, it comes through in watching it that he's having so much fun doing this too, that it wasn't he's just the host that they hired. Like he was the right guy.
They could have thrown anyone in there. They could have thrown some washed up Disney star in there, but they got the right guy, and that's nice to see.
There is a genuine reverence for this stuff that comes through, and it feels right. And again, like I said, I went in with very low expectations and was super impressed with this. And there's no fake reveals. There's no oh, you're not going to believe this, and and wait till you see what this is worth. And
that's the word. They didn't make a contest out of it.
It's not on a commercial network, so they don't go to commercial just before the big reveal.
That's what I'm saying. It's
right.
Getting the break. Bruce Boxleitner back there and showing him that stuff, and his telling what he remembered about it, and that was great stuff.
Christopher Lloyd and Rick Moranis. And
I loved Christopher Lloyd smelling his costume.
Yeah, I know. I won't say.
Because we all smell old things. We do it as collectors.
It's nice to see. That's sort of, they've put the actors or whoever meeting up with their things in place of where another show would be like, and here's the value of it.
Right.
And
you're exactly right, Dave. And
even those Narnia kids. Yeah. Oh my God, I can't believe I was that small and all that. They had a real reaction to that. It didn't seem fake or staged or anything.
And they definitely, you can tell that it wasn't the typical kind of setup, that they had already seen it all already and now they're just going to shoot it. It's they really surprised these people with these things.
And one of the things that got again, to go back to the Tron one, the matte painting maker.
Oh yeah.
Him talking about the disappointment with how the film went, how it was received. Yeah. And, that was, that's the kind of stuff somebody else might not have done. That might not have made the cut. Because it is part of the legacy of that film. So,
So check it out. It's called Prop Culture. It's on Disney Plus. If you don't have Disney Plus, you should. It's worth it.
We're
not getting paid by them at all.
Yeah, they're not a sponsor, but we all are a sponsor.
But we all pay them. It's worth. What do we get it for? Like $4 a month or something?
We bought into the 3-year deal for like $4 a month.
Yeah.
There is more on that to watch than almost anything else. So,
and just, if between Prop Culture and Mandalorian alone,
there you go. We'll touch briefly on this other show called Gallery, which is basically going behind the scenes on Mandalorian, which it's a weekly show. They've only had 4 episodes out, and it's interesting. I gotta say, it's probably not for your random person. I feel like it's made for people like us who are really into this kind of stuff, because I'm watching it and I'm like, they're getting into, the one you didn't see, Tom, they're getting into f-stops and lighting things and all this crap. And I'm like, and I told my wife, I'm like, you're going to love this. She's like, what's he talking about?
But my wife actually loved that 4th episode, and she's not even into this stuff at all, but she was just amazed at the technology and how it actually worked. I mean, I was too, but
they've reinvented something new, which you don't see all the time.
Again, I was dubious of this in the same way I was with the other show, because again, I mean, how many times have we watched like behind the scenes things or DVD add-ons where you're like, okay, well, that's 14 minutes of my life I'm not going to get back.
Right.
And they got all the directors together in one room. Okay. Yeah. And then they get all the actors together in one room. And then they talk through this stuff, and it's just like it's a
rare show when they can have a half-hour behind the scenes show about a half-hour episode.
And that was exactly what I said
behind
to
the scenes are as long as the episodes.
I don't know if I need to see that, and this is great. I've really looked forward to it, enjoyed it.
I like that they're not doing it just per episode. I like that they're doing broader topics and going across. And it really reminds me of, and that was Favreau too, right? Dinner for Five?
Dinner for Five. I was going to say, he's great
fantastic. At that. Loved that show.
Even if you were not into any of those directors or actors that he had on that show, it was just super interesting.
Always entertaining. Yeah.
Always entertaining.
So good.
The 3rd episode where they allowed Dave Filoni to just go on and do what Dave Filoni does, which, I've been listening to him for 10 years on interviews and podcasts, and I love the guy. I think he's a genius, but he worked, a lot of people don't realize George Lucas handpicked him, and George Lucas basically taught him how to make Star Wars. And whether you love George Lucas or not, this guy, Dave Filoni, knows Star Wars better than anybody other than probably George Lucas. And I would argue maybe even better than George Lucas at this point, because he's objective in a way that George couldn't be. So like when he starts talking, I wrote down there were 2 stories he tells, one about Luke possibly turning to the dark side in Return of the Jedi. And the way he explained it was a way I'd never even thought about it. And then when he talked about Duel of the Fates and Phantom Menace, and he was saying that the real Duel of the Fate was whether it was going to be Qui-Gon or Obi-Wan that trained Anakin, and that decision was what changed the course of Anakin and the whole galaxy.
And drew a line all the way to Return of the Jedi.
It was Return of the Jedi. Amazing. And just the fact that they just let him go on like that.
I was shocked how long they held that shot. And it was just like,
but just the story of
this is great.
The story of how he got hired is so fantastic. And talking about basically thinking he's going to walk away from this with a great story of having, met with George Lucas. And then is astonished to find out he's got the job. It's like,
I've heard other stories similar to that, though. George just is not necessarily a people person, so he doesn't maybe communicate as well. But I've heard other people say similar stories about like not realizing that their conversation was an interview, or not realizing that they got the job when the conversation was over.
You Filoni, and you hear about him, and you're like, he's the future of Star Wars, and that story just proves he's got an in-depth understanding of that honestly may not even come across in the movies to everybody. The way he tied that all together. And I've always thought, he is the guy who's going to take Star Wars to the next level. But the more you see these episodes and you dig into Favreau, I'd like Favreau I love Made, which was a movie that no one saw, which is he directed one of his first movies. But he's one of these guys, and you saw it in that 4th episode when he was talking about Jungle Book and all that stuff. He's He's the next guy who's revolutionizing how movies are made.
Maybe, between the two, I think the two of them are a great pair, and it's because they each have part of what George Lucas had. You've got Filoni, who has the mythology and the passion and the hope, and then you have Favreau, who also has passion and energy and humor and all of that, but also has that technological revolution kind of ideology, that mindset. You need both of those. Neither
of them is dwelling on the rearview mirror. They both got, it's not past glories, it's where we go forward.
And I see a lot of people who are like, give Filoni the next movie, give them that. Filoni very rightly talks a lot in this series about how this is his first live action stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think it's so good that that's where he's starting. Like, you don't
absolutely.
want to throw someone like that to the wolves, no pun intended. You want to, give this guy a chance to succeed at different scales, and then, maybe a few seasons after Mandalorian, maybe he gets a movie, and I'd be fine with that. But
I agree
give him
with
a
that.
chance.
But even if he never directed a movie, if he's just part of the team that's helping shepherd things along,
it's fantastic.
If those two are the Kevin Feige of the Star Wars universe, I'm all for that.
And this is what I was thinking watching the third episode. I've said a couple times in the podcast that Disney/Marvel once a week should back a dump truck full of cash up to Jon Favreau's house and just pour it in his driveway. And this is what he got for that. This is his payoff. This is the thing he really wants to be doing. And this, he's doing what he wants to be doing.
He definitely
is writing his own ticket. And you can see the joy in him about this. And
people forget he wrote The Mandalorian. Like,
that's what I'm saying. But he has what the opportunity he was given was to do exactly what he wanted. And
it's outstanding. And the technological side of it that they've shared thus far is just incredible. It's the fourth episode really goes into the volume, which is what they call their big, LED screen place. It's so weird because you hear it and in your mind you just sort of think, well, we've done front projection screens and rear projection screens. Like, how is this different than standing in front of a screen? And it really is dramatically different than standing in front of a screen. And the fact that they can use it as lighting is genius.
That's the stuff that I love.
And the fact that they're using the parallax movement so that the images on the screen are moving in conjunction with the action going on the stage. It's you need to watch the fourth episode.
I haven't seen a moving image, but the depth is moving, and the everything has changed. That parallax effect, where you get the stuff in the background is moving faster than stuff in the foreground, and whatever else, or vice versa.
Yeah, if you saw that episode first before we saw the series Mandalorian, you'd be like, "This is going to be a train wreck."
Oh yeah,
because there's no way what I'm seeing in that thing
because when they put dirt and rocks and the person standing there and you see the screen in the background,
I still don't believe it.
Doesn't look like what it looks like through the lens on I want to say 35 millimeter, but it's not. It's digital.
In Tunisia or wherever the hell, or Death Valley or whatever, or somewhere in Utah.
I couldn't believe that they weren't on location. It's just stunning.
I couldn't believe they weren't on location, but then I couldn't believe they were inside a room that's just wall-to-wall screens and ceiling. Yeah. I mean, it's one thing to be on maybe a backlot and not on location, but these guys aren't even in a backlot. They're in a hangar.
They're in a tank.
Yeah. The other thing I'm sensing watching this, and I've only seen the first 3 episodes, is they get deeper in with each episode. They're breaking it down to an element at a time, but they're getting deeper into it. So the first one you can kind of wade into and kind of be given kind of a general sense of things. But then each one gets they break it down a little more. And it's like, it's almost like a master class in how to do something like this. And it's getting a little more with each episode. You're getting a little more detail and it broadens out just a little bit more. You've really got to watch
the thing that blew my mind the most in that 4th episode. They were showing scenes from when they shot the scenes on Tatooine in the docking bay. And I assumed that those pit droids were put in post-production. Those pit droids were on the background screen. Like, that was all happening in real time as they were filming. But it was none of it. I mean, it was just that It blew my mind. Like I couldn't even fathom
like
that they did that.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It's
wild.
It's really, it's a whole new way of making.
But, but you have the pre-planning, but you're working in a 3D digital environment. So when you have a setup that doesn't work, you can change it on the fly and it doesn't F everything up. And you don't
that's what Favreau was
days
talking
or
about.
Weeks or hours or anything. You just, give us a second, we'll reposition. Hey, that rock is too high. All right. Or lower the rock. Like it's crazy.
It is.
And that's what they said they couldn't do on Jungle Book. Like they would do an entire setup and then have to like move everything, even though it was all green screen. Like they wanted to change the camera angle. It was a whole reset up of everything. But like this, they're moving things on the fly. It's crazy. Yeah.
You don't even have to move the lights because
and if it makes this kind of production affordable,
there's almost like no lights.
Yeah, you can see there's just a halo of a handful of them. And I'm sure they're going in for close-ups and, putting some beauty lights in and stuff. But it really seemed like, I mean, when you watch those setups as in that fourth episode, you're not seeing a lot of lights. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Well, and one of the most telling things was and we even all know just from the work that we've done, like reflective surfaces are like the worst nightmare on a film set, right? But they were saying they purposely made the Mandalorian's helmet a mirror because they wanted it to, because they knew this was going to be so good that it could reflect what was going on around it and have it be believable. And they didn't have to matte things out or paint things out digitally. Like it's crazy.
When they showed the one shot outside the thing looking down, it looked literally like there were 500 television screens all butted up against each other. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah.
They must have went to Best Buy, every Best Buy in LA, buying every TV.
But it's
pretty mind blowing.
Seamless on the inside. That's the incredible.
It's totally seamless.
You've got all of these monitors lined up, and then a seamless effect, and it's curved. Which, so now you've got all these slightly curved monitors. Are they? I don't know what the size of each monitor is, but
I felt like the circular is single video screens. I don't know what the roof was. The roof was something crazy because it was. It looked like
they're using video game engine
screens.
Technology to move it all around, which is, it's this weird and amazing combination of technologies that and Favreau was saying like all these things were happening, but it took them to go, oh wait, if we take this and this and this and put it all together, we could do this.
It probably cost like $30 million to build that place, but now you've got it, and you can literally just
and every production is now going to be lining up to build their own or use that place, and they'll make
especially now. All you need is that thing, one guy and an iPhone, and you don't have to get anyone sick.
That episode was the advertisement.
You could do a half round of it, and you'd still get almost everything you need. Just rotate your set a little bit every time. If your foreground treatment, just rotate a little bit.
Well, they showed that at Celebration when we were watching that making of Solo panel. Like they had done that on some of the sets.
Yeah,
they had
I'm surprised they didn't reference
screens.
Solo in this.
But those were just displaying stuff. Those weren't interacting with the camera. Those weren't doing parallax effect. Those
were more the Jungle Book type lighting sort of.
Yes. Right. Yeah, that's exactly what.
So anyway, check both those. Cool. So it's Disney Gallery. Right, it's called Gallery, and then
Disney Gallery,
Prop Culture,
and I like the fact that they're calling it Disney Gallery because I'm wondering if rather than call it anything tied to Mandalorian, are they going to do this type of thing for other?
I was thinking exactly that. I would bet we're going to see some Marvel series focused Disney galleries and
sit Favreau at a table with 4 or 5 Marvel guys. Just put Favreau at a table with people.
Pretty much, this is his thing now. So
it shouldn't be Disney Gallery. It should be Disney Favreau at a table with 3 or 4 other people.
That's right. Party of Favreau.
It sounds long, but I think they can make it work.
Yeah, they can
make it work. Yeah. Awesome. We're going to go what's in the box, right?
Yeah.
Show you in the box. Who's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box?
Regular Joe's What's in the Box.
Okay, since you jumped in, Barry, what's in the box?
All right. This literally just came today. I've been waiting for it for weeks because
it came. Another Ewok?
Nope. It came from overseas. Dave, you're going to be very jealous. I got an autographed photo.
I know exactly what it is.
Of Michael York from Logan's Run. From our friend Army Shakes over in England.
Oh, was that Army? I don't remember who it was.
Yeah. It took like 4 weeks for it to get here, but it got. Well, and I double checked. I mean, it is not the greatest autograph in the world, but that is how he signs his name. So
it looks like a live autograph.
Yeah. But
that's
all
a
of his
great
autographs
picture to have autographed, though.
That's good. That's a
perfect.
Nice
when I saw he posted this, I was shocked that it was still available by the time I said, "Hey."
I would have been the only other person to buy it because I saw it after I saw your comment.
You know who's really going to be jealous?
Yes,
our friend Brian.
Brian.
Yeah, but it was cool. So yeah, that's my what's in the box. Just came today.
That's awesome. Now I need one of those.
All right, Todd, what's in the box?
Okay. So last week I got Barry to watch a TV series called Tales from the Loop on Amazon, and it's based on a book of paintings by a Swedish painter who did these really intricate paintings of basically futuristic technology in like rural settings. The series is written around the paintings. So they basically took the paintings and wrote so I bought the book. And it's really, really cool. Some of the stuff it's just awesome. And he's got great, the really cool thing is like all this stuff in here, like I said, we see a lot of these things in the stories, but all the stuff is old and disused. It's not like futuristic, brand new, shiny futuristic technology that's like worked
right
into the stories.
Show, yeah.
It's like I mean, they did an amazing job in the show recreating these objects, and I'm sure
the show is set in the early '80s, and everything looks old and used. So it makes you wonder, like, all right, even if these things are 10 years old, so these things were developed in the early '70s for technology that would never have existed then. So
exactly, and that's the cool. I mean, it's basically this town that the town's single industry is this Institute for Experimental Physics. And so there's all the refuge of all these failed experiments just littered all over everywhere in the woods and everywhere. There's randomly wandering robots and all kinds of things. It's I will caution you, as Barry and I have both said, it is slow going. But it's a really, really interesting story and very cleverly woven in together.
And it is not for Dave.
It's not for Dave.
Okay, I was going to ask on a Winter Soldier and Willow scale, where does it fall?
You can't even put it on that spectrum.
It's a lot.
It takes a certain type of viewer.
It's a lot closer to Winter Soldier.
What are you trying to say?
Yeah. Dave, you should watch the first. Dave, you should watch the first episode just for and don't plan on watching the rest of it, but just for how it's shot. It's very cinematic. I think it's beautiful.
Who's in it? Any hot girls in it? That'll get me hooked.
So I think it scores low on the hot girl factor.
Barry's like, watch the Narnia episode because the hot teenage girl's now all grown up.
Okay, so this is not a Nancy Drew, Dave.
Nancy Drew is awesome.
But it is a great narrative, and there's like sci-fi underpinnings to the stories. I really loved it. So
the challenge with it is that it's so slow. Each episode's an hour. It could be 35, 40 minutes. But it is like watching a painting.
It is, and that's just it. It's like
the art of it is spectacular.
What's it on?
Amazon Prime.
Oh, I just canceled my Amazon Prime membership. Sorry.
And I texted Todd the other day. I'm like, I hope you're watching this on a 4K TV. And he was like, I watched the first couple episodes on an iPad, and I had to stop.
I did. I watched the first couple, and I stopped, and I was like, I need to start this over.
It needs to be watched on a large screen 4K TV.
It really does.
Really
and again,
appreciate
like I said,
how beautiful it is.
You are like kind of sliding into these paintings, and it's pretty incredible. And like I said, I think it's
just slow, and I've had to force myself to. They have these long, drawn-out shots, and lovingly they hang on things way longer than any production.
You know that.
I know you do, which is why I told you straight up, don't watch it. But if you're into the visual aspect of it, like it's really, really, really well done. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
And the stories are creepy, and the stories do suck you in. It's just that they're just a little. It's like you just want them to get on with it sometimes.
Yeah,
like,
I'm not a fan of visuals for the sake of visuals. Visual tells the story.
Well, they do though, and they don't They don't rush it. This is not designed. This is not designed for a sitcom audience.
It's not modern day filmmaking, though. I mean, the quality of it is the pacing at which they tell the stories is not the way things are paced today.
No, it's not. But if you look at it as a self-contained, it's 8 episodes. That's all there can be. There's a through narrative that takes you a while to figure it out, but it's
you have to figure it out too.
Yeah, there's that. That was the other thing.
It's slow, and you have to figure it out.
But you can figure
you have
it
to
out.
Think about it.
Unlike Westworld or something like.
Yeah, no, there's no. I also will say there's no bait and switch here. They're fairly straightforward with what they're showing you.
Yeah.
So, okay, Dave, what's in the box?
Oh, yes. Okay, I too have an autograph. It's bought on the Mark Ruffalo.
Awesome. Someone needs to tell him where to sign.
Huh?
Someone needs to tell him where
all that white
sign.
space and he had to draw on the green.
I know, but it actually in person looks better. Okay. There is a plethora of autographs being sold during the virus.
Yes, there are. Unfortunately, people are having to cash things out, but
yeah. But this, I have to hang this with Vision and Scarlet Witch.
You're getting close to having all the Avengers at this point. I know.
Point. I got to get. I definitely need Tom Holland, and I definitely need Robert Downey Jr. I really want Robert Downey Jr. on something, and that's hard because I have Thor's hammer and Cap's shield. I kind of need him on a helmet.
That's not easy. Here. He lived like 15 miles from me for like 2 months making The Judge, and like everyone I know ran into him somewhere. And it's like, I saw Robert Downey Jr. at the post office. I saw him at the, it was like, I never saw him. There's never anything.
He was avoiding you.
Had an Iron
he
Man
pitched
helmet.
he threw out the game ball at one of my nephew's Little League games. Okay.
His security had a picture of you and was purposely keeping him away from
he was reverse stalking me. And, yeah.
That's the thing. Like where do you draw the line on the Avengers? If you're like, here's my autograph.
Well, you're missing 2 big ones. So,
yeah. Who's the other big? Scarlett
Johansson.
Yeah. Scarlett's not easy.
He's not an easy autograph to get in.
Robert Downey Jr. is easy enough to get. Army actually has a bunch of them. I passed on them because I'm waiting for,
What's the problem is a lot of these ones that he gets, they're done in the street and they're a squiggle. They don't look anything like a person's name.
He's a squiggle. Yeah. But Scarlett, I have yet to see anyone with her.
Yeah.
So
she doesn't like to sign autographs. She's like Natalie Portman that way.
What are you gonna do? Tom, what do you got?
Yes, I don't have it handy. It's downstairs, but
don't tell the audience that. We don't show any of our stuff.
I have right here. I have the box that I got, and in the box, as you clearly see,
yes,
right now,
what is in that box, Tom?
I'll tell you, Dave. It's a box. I actually went, I've been picking up little pieces from my vintage Star Wars collection, things that got lost along the way or that I just, maybe never got as a kid. And so I for a lot of the stuff that I got early on, I don't have the boxes for it. Some of it I did, some of it I didn't. Yep. As I got later in collecting, I kept up more of the boxes. So it was John over at the Imperial Castle. It's imperialcastletoyshop.com. Someone I met online through some of the forums and groups that we hang out in, and I've managed to pick up kind of beater boxes, but I like that, like, because like everything I have is mostly mine from when I was a kid, and it's all, if I've got a box, it's been kicked around.
We like to say well played with. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So I got an AT-AT box. I got inside of that was an Imperial transport box. And there was a mini rig box that I was missing, and then there was also a land speeder box in there.
Oh, nice.
And there was actually, I want to say there was one other, and I'm losing it right now, but because John had said like, the troop transport was a little worse than I thought, so I threw in a couple extra inside
nice.
So it was like a box in a big box, and inside that box was smaller boxes that also had boxes in them.
That is the ultimate what's in the box.
Do I win what's in the box for doing that?
Totally.
You win a
nesting box.
You win a VHS copy of Willow.
Yeah. the ultimate, Tom, the ultimate what's in the box ever. I had, I got a little 1/6 scale Gwyneth Paltrow's head from Iron Man, And that was my what's in a box. And I think that one to this day is hard to top. But you came close. You got very meta in the boxes.
That's who I want to. So our bumper for this is the scene from Seven where Brad Pitt asks what's in the box. But my goal is to get Gwyneth Paltrow to act out that scene for us.
That would be great.
And you know her parents, so yeah.
Well, her father passed. I used to work for her dad, but he passed away. But I'll see if Blythe will answer my phone calls.
Yeah.
So that's funny. That's what's in the box. All right. I have no idea, since we're on Zoom, how long we've been going. But does anyone have any last thoughts?
I'm good this week. I don't have one.
I'm good as well.
Why don't we ask Tom what's going on over at Tom Spina Designs at Regal Robot? Anything you want to talk about real quick?
Oh, gosh. So many things. We're just, we're anxious to get back in the studio. We've got a lot ahead of us for Tom Spina Designs in terms of some really cool restoration stuff. At Regal, let's just see here. We have, so by the time this will come out before June 1st, right? So sometime either June 1st or just after, we're going to have a nice, magnet coming out, a new one that's going to be really cool. And we have something else new coming out for I Am Your Father's Day, which is a thing that Disney does now.
Yes.
And so we're participating in that. And then I think, oh gosh, we have so much lined up with Regal right now. We've been working on, we've previously announced the CZ3 life-size bust. All of the prototyping is done there. I've been slowly working on the paint masters myself in some of the off time. But that's very, very close to release. We are currently working on our one-to-one to the puppet. So only about 20 inches tall of the Rancor puppet.
Oh, okay.
So it's a statue based on the Rancor puppet, based on a scan of the real prop. And that's something that's been in the works for about a year. It's been in development. But we're at the point where the digital cleanup of the scan is done. We had to repose it because the current condition of the puppet is such that it can't be changed in pose without damaging it. And it's in an odd pose. It's kind of leaning back and it's a little crunched up. So, we had to digitally restore the piece basically. And then also figure out how do you make that reproducible? How do you, get things to be able to come apart and go back together in a way that makes sense. And I'm really excited about how that's looking. So we did, during the shutdown, we did a 55% scale test print of the sculpt to make sure that everything that we had done digitally reads right. And it just looks so right. It just feels like the character. I love the pose we were able to get him in. I love his attitude, the mouth, everything just feels like that prop and not like just a sculpture of the character or not just a toy, So it's as faithful a reproduction of that thing as anyone's ever done. And it's probably still a couple months out from being released, but it's something that I'm really, really excited about.
Cool. So that's regalrobot.com, TomSpinaDesign.com. Check those
Correct.
both.
And at Regal Robot and at Tom Spina Designs to check us out on social. We're everywhere. Please follow us.
There you go.
Thank you.
Follow them. Great. Thanks for coming on.
Anytime. I had a blast.
Appreciate it.
It's always fun.
And
I'll have to think of something random next time. How many times have I been on and I don't know this going in? Shame on me.
Well, I don't know that you've ever just been on the show as one of the hosts.
Yeah, I think we've always just kind of interviewed you before. So now you're in the host pool. So
gosh.
Yeah, you're in rotation now.
Like you could be Joan Rivers when Johnny's sick.
That's right. I'll have to. I'll put together a checklist for the next time.
Okay, which is good. I suspect you're not someone who would have a hard time coming up with a what's in the box item. I kind of feel like at any given time you could probably do something pretty amazing.
There's usually something in a box. I'm weirdly not super active in collecting. I'm way more apt to get, some cool toy here or there than a big prop piece. Those kind of come along, fewer and fewer these days, just because it's tough to find stuff now. There's limits on that. And then of course, money.
Yes, there's that.
You've also got a focus that, makes it even, I mean, there's lots of cool prop stuff out there all the time.
Yes.
You're casting a wide net, right? But if you're focused as you are, it makes it harder.
Yeah.
Or more challenging, maybe, not
Star
harder.
Wars Cantina stuff doesn't come through quite as often as, random pieces from
You've got to pick something that's more prolific. Like, I'm going to start clipping Law and Order stuff. Now, for 20 years.
Yeah.
It's right here in New York. I guarantee there's easy to collect.
Somewhere there's a rental house full of stuff that's been used on just, every couch has been used on 12 different Law and Order,
I'm sure.
shows.
I read an article one time about how actors in New York have uniformly 2 resumes. They have their actual resume and they have their Law and Order resume that only shows one previous appearance on a Law and Order series, despite the fact that some of them have been on 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
But they know there's a rule that they won't hire you more than twice.
Yep.
And so they submit the Law and Order resume so they can squeeze out that 3rd or 4th show.
That's
hilarious. I wonder where they have all that stuff. Like, it's funny. I may have mentioned this. So I worked on a TV series back in the 90s, and Law and Order then came in and took over our studio. Our show lasted a year, 10 episodes. We had a freaking prop. It wasn't anything cool, but props and costumes that filled a small warehouse, and we were on for 10 episodes. I can't imagine what Law and Order has.
Well, and I'm sure a lot of that is rental stock.
Oh,
I'm sure they're just, cycling through every week. Their guy goes out and, either their buyer goes out and buys a bunch of cheap stuff, but, someone goes to the rental houses and just pick.
Well, it's funny. Our show, we didn't know costumes were rentals. They were, the main guy wore Armani suits. And, I remember one episode he had a leather jacket. They bought like 5 of the same $1,000 leather jacket. I'm like, there's always some scam in the film business. There's always something.
Yeah.
But someone's taking all that stuff home. I tried
you didn't get Armani suits.
But if that had been a hit, Dave, there'd be 5 of those jackets out there in the prop market.
That's right. But anyway, okay. That's enough from us. And thanks again, Tom.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.